Hi there. This is the first episode in a 10-part series documenting the development of one of my uni assignments. As a part of the assignment, I have to create 10 blog posts relating to what I have done each week. Um, and one of the ways I do genuinely like to show off my work is through video format. Um, it's just easier to show things off, and considering that I've done it for years in college, doing it for this feels right for me. I am also submitting a written version of this to go alongside with it, just to give the flexibility when I do start developing footage for my projects that I want to show off. This feels more in line with how I want to show it off of me talking through it, but still being able to show the actual footage on top of it. During the first week, I undertook research to familiarize myself with the Division 2. Having never experienced the game, my first introduction was through YouTube clips of the opening. However, I found this approach to be a little difficult to understand the feel and experience myself. Ultimately, I purchased the game for myself and played through the first few missions and several side quests to really grasp the main mechanics of the game. This gave me a great angle to identify something that felt missing from the game, while also helped me build on fitting my idea within the game itself. With this assignment also serving as an opportunity to focus on a personal area of refinement, I concentrated on improving the mechanical aspect of the game rather than level design. My first idea was implementing a new mechanic to the game, which was before I played the game for the first time. On reflection of that, I find it significantly difficult to really see a useful tactical mechanic to complement the already vast array of skills available in the base game. While experiencing the game, I experienced an encounter that led me down the path to my current idea. While finishing up the Grand Washington Hotel mission, I was taking out hyena forces from a distance and having nearly dealt with the opposition, and also at the same time attempting to dodge a grenade. I turned around directly into a hyena rusher. And so, having focused so hard on these enemies and not suspecting a surprise attack from behind, I was completely startled by the enemy, which led me down the path of an entirely melee based faction to populate Jersey City. This also ties into what I had just worked on in the second game creation ICA, where I developed a more unique boss AI that, depending on the distance, would leap towards the player and create an AoE. This created an interest to expand on my knowledge, looking deeper into behavior trees and more specifically the environment query system to influence the decision making of my enemies to seek cover and also react to the player. Moving on to the second week, I began to work through my typical ideation process of making notes and planning my ideas before expanding them further. I made notes documenting different types of potential melee weapons they could wield, as well as looking at a hierarchy like structure as to how the faction operates. I began developing concepts that would fit with a pre existing archetype within the division, tanks and rushes and etc., and expanding on their main behaviors and what made them fit in with the assigned archetype. For a majority of my research, I had also been using the Division 2 wiki to help me understand how each archetype worked and what tools they had at their disposal to make them a threat to the player. I began working on a framework to help me expand on each archetype, focusing on weapons, gadgets, and strategic data relating to them, but also considering group size and movement speed. And one of my main concerns with this idea is the fact that the game is primarily gun based, which can make an entire melee faction a little difficult to feel like a threat in the current landscape. This is why I have taken group size and movement into consideration with this project. Uh, with the option to mow down enemies very fast as the player, as well as having to approach the player from where they spawn, I will manage to really apply pressure through their numbers, as well as having the strategic knowledge to seek cover when they are under severe fire. I also made a note on what I would name this new faction. I listened to several folklore stories that have become a part of stories over time, and stumbled across the story about cat's eyes from a local Catholic church. This does unfortunately fall just outside the area restriction of Jersey City, but I would believe that this ideology and story would still spread into the location. The story talks about how people have seen two mysterious lights appearing at the church and how no one knows how the mystery occurs. I think calling the faction the Eyes fits really well with connecting this to local folklore. Finally, in the third week, I began working on putting my proposal document together, but also engaging in a lecture by Stuart Scott from Ubisoft. After the lecture, I stuck around to ask a question about why melee combat wasn't a part of the game. He primarily stated that the game was more looter shooter like Destiny and Borderlands, and focusing more on the shooting aspect had always been the core part of the game. But he did also state that it didn't mean they never considered it or would never look at the idea in an official expansion. I also asked what his thoughts would be on an entirely event-based faction, where he mentioned the above considerations, such as group sizes, and seemed fond of the large groups applying pressure on the player. The big takeaway from this was to think about the size of rooms with this particular enemy type. Having large spaces would make the enemies an easy target, but a more closed and cramped space would complement the outnumbered factor significantly more. So my main focus for next week is to expand upon what ideas I have written down by exploring my pre-established ideas for the different enemies and following my outline notes to familiarize myself with what I want each enemy to do. As a stretch for this week, I will also set up my project using the advanced locomotion system as the basis and begin working on my enemy types. I feel this sticks close to the production pipeline, acting as my pre-production period, which I will conclude with my enemy AI plan document that I mentioned as a deliverable in my proposal document.